7, please.
It's okay.
No, go, please.
It's okay. Let's start right now. Should we repeat?
Yes, please.
Karuna karura.
Shriyoya karuna kura.
Durvarsha priya saha.
Durvarsha priya saha. Kanti arpate vishradam. Patim bharatam apyuta. Shriyoya karuna kura. Durvarsha priya saha. Kanti arpate vishradam. Patim bharatam apyuta.
Shriyoya karuna krura.
Shriyoya karuna kura. Durvarsha priya saha. Patim bharatam apyuta. Okay, word for word translation. Striya, women, he indeed, akaruna, merciless, kruraha, running, cunning, durmashaha, intolerant, priya sahasaha, for their own pleasure, they can do anything. Kinanti, they kill. Alpa arte, for a slight reason. Api, indeed. Vishrabdham, faithful. Patim, husband. Brataram, brother. Api, also. Uta, it is said. Was or clear? Cunning? What does cunning mean?
Cunning means like
Mocking.
what's the word? Mockery?
Like, it's nasty.
Well, it's one of the qualities of Srimati Radharani. She's very cunning. Cunning means she's smart. Yeah, she's joking. She uses joking words in a fun manner to make fun of others, usually. Cunning. So it's using words in a joking manner.
Okay.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Women as a class are merciless and cunning. They cannot tolerate even a slight offense. For their own pleasure, they can do anything irreligious, and therefore they do not fear killing even a faithful husband or brother.
Good clarification.
Purport. King Pururava was greatly attached to Urvasi. Yet, despite his faithfulness to her, she has left him. Now, considering that the king was wasting his rarely achieved human form of life, Urvasi frankly explains the nature of a woman. Because of her nature, a woman can respond to even a slight offense from her husband by not only leaving him, but even killing him if required. To say nothing of her husband, she can even kill her brother. That is a woman's nature. Therefore, in the material world, unless women are trained to be chaste and faithful to their husbands, there cannot be peace or prosperity in society. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Shakshurum militam mina tasmai Shri Guru Deva Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadhamayam Dadati Swapatantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Utapad Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cham Shri Rupam Shakrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Cham Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavadishwari Vrishabhanu Sutevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivastava Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It is said that the Srimad Bhagavatam is directly spoken by Shukadev Goswami. It has been given by Shukadev Goswami as the Amala Puranam, as the fruit of the ripe fruit of the Vedic tree of wisdom. Nigama kalpataro galitam phalam, shuka mukha amrita dravya samyutam. That this Srimad Bhagavatam is so relishable because it has been spoken by Shuka, by the saintly personality of Shukadev Goswami, who's compared to a parrot that, like picking a mango, like reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, it becomes more relishable and sweet. This is the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam at the very beginning of the first canto says, Janmari asyayata itadatasya tesha vijanasya teni brahma hridaya adhikavai muhyanti atsuraya. That this Srimad Bhagavatam is directly glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is beyond the conception even of Brahma. Not even Brahma can understand this. What to say of the demigods? What to say here of a Gandharva? What to say of human beings? To understand Srimad Bhagavatam is for us inconceivable. Srimad Bhagavatam is also establishing in the very first canto, Dharma Prajita Kaita Botra, Paramoniya Macharanam Satam, Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu, Shivadam Tapotrayam Mulanam. That the Srimad Bhagavatam is making a clear distinction of what is reality and what is illusion. It is substantiality in its perfection. That is Srimad Bhagavatam. What does it mean? It's the absolute truth. The absolute truth doesn't have any temporality. It is complete. In this material life, we have so many incomplete things. This nature of the material world is asat. Every day when we go to Paris to the streets, when we talk to people on the streets, and when we try to give them Krishna consciousness, we would have to break the ice to get through the temporality of the material consciousness to understand that there is actually something eternal in every single human being. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we learn to distinguish between the temporality of this world, which includes gender, race, background, country, religion, all these facilities, these faculties that have been given by Krishna to understand life and to properly live according to Dharma. For example, Krishna says that sexual intercourse, it is allowed according to the principle of religion. Actually, Krishna is that. He is this sex desire. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we understand Srila Prabhupada makes clear on the basis of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that this science of Srimad Bhagavatam is based on the principle of Adi Ras. Adi Ras means the supreme pleasure that is originally in the spiritual world, that is experienced by Krishna. But in this life, as we see in that story, everything in this material world is perverted, completely upside down. Everybody is acting on their own whims, everybody is trying to be the enjoyer of themselves, and everybody is trying to fulfill their own desires instead of satisfying Krishna's desires. Atashi Krishna Namadi, Nabaved Graham Indiani, Seva Mukhe Jivado, Swayame Vaspurada. Atashi Krishna Namadi, Nabaved Graham Indiani, Seva Mukhe Jivado. That means that by beginning with the tongue, we have to chant Hare Krishna. We have to relish prasadam. We have to talk about Krishna. That's the whole essence of book distribution, is that we go out to talk about Krishna. We're not wasting a second. We're not wasting our time. The so precious time we should use to converse about Krishna. We should talk about Krishna, satatam ketayantuma. And we should make a vow that our lives will be spent in Krishna consciousness so that we can worship Krishna perpetually. It also means that we can derive great joy and satisfaction. Example is that when we talk about Srimad Bhagavatam and the association of the Vaishnavas, just by hearing Bhagavatam, there's a certain relish. Likewise, when we go out to the streets and we share the wisdom of Bhagavatam, we share Bhagavad Gita, we share the wisdom of the Acharyas like Srila Prabhupada, we are 100% relishing, although it is completely difficult. And this relish that we have to share Krishna, that is for others also sometimes inconceivable. Some may ask, how can you spend your days and times out on the streets in a cold city like that, and you have nothing else to do to give away books, to talk about this personality that you call Krishna? How is that you face all these different elements, you are sacrificing your health, you are basically doing something that nobody else is doing? Why don't you just follow the normal standard of life and you become an ordinary person? What about that? And we have to say in that regard that who is following ordinary life? What is ordinary life? All these people, they are calling themselves ordinary, they're following the life of materialism. They're following the life of temporarity. How can that be the norm nowadays? Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj, he says that the biggest lie in the world is that we assume that the sense gratification, that this is the pivotal of our lives. That working hard for a job, that watching the news, that going out to the streets to gratify our own senses, that is the highest supreme pleasure. And then you meet someone in the streets with the saffron robes and with this great smile and with a very happy approach. And he says, Swagatam, Swagatam. Hello there, bonjour. And here is something very special for you. Because you are a special person, I want to give you the special book. And that person who's been coming out of this material world is suddenly invited to come to the spiritual world. And the devotee thus builds a bridge from the complete mundane experience between man and woman, between I am this body, I am my job, I am my religion, I am this nature, I am this and that, to somebody who offers you a book with the knowledge of the Supreme Personality, with the understanding of the Realm Supreme, and with the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the main resident, as the main benefactor of all the living beings. Meeting this person is a life changer. So we have come from the streets, I come from the streets like that, and we have endless gratitude for Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada has built this bridge from this temporary nature of the conditioned affairs in this material world to an understanding of a higher truth, an understanding of a higher pleasure, an understanding of beyond fear and defending and eating, sleeping, mating, and so on. It is an understanding that we give through the Bhagavatam that can lift every single human being out of this material conditioning onto the spiritual platform. And thus, it is Prabhupada's vision that every single human being is equipped with the knowledge, that every single household has a Srimad Bhagavatam, and that the whole world studies the knowledge of Bhagavatam. That is the vision that Prabhupada inaugurated, not just here in France, but everywhere in the world. And it is our duty based on the indebtedness of how we came to this transcendental treasure house. Because here in the temple, we have this endless treasure of the Bhagavatam. It is an endless treasure of prasadam. We can eat as much as you like. and you can see Krishna as long as you want. For some time, I mean, of course, the curtain might close, and then you have to peek behind. Isn't recommended at all. So this treasure house of knowledge, of transcendental knowledge that we have right here in the temple, through the mercy of the spiritual master, by Srila Prabhupada's grace, that is our greatest wealth. And the greatest wealth was also translated as sadhana, coming to the morning Mangalarti, chanting our rounds, doing worship of Tulasi, taking Charanamrita, rolling in the dust of the Vaishnavas, what else? Taking Mahaprasada, and reading and hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus, by this great wealth, what we have accumulated, at some point there will be an overflow. And this overflow we use to invite the people to come to the temple. This we use to stand hours and hours and hours on the streets to enlighten the people, to bring them out of their conditioning into the spiritual reality. In this example here of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can understand even most difficult topics. Most difficult topics, they have to be understood through the lenses of Shastra Shaksas. In the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is clearly understood that the conditioning of the relationship, of the sex desire, of the mundane affairs, is that human beings in this relationship, they will sleep all night, they will engage in sexual intercourse, and they will spend their time in making money for their family members. That is the fallible soldiers that are preventing the spiritual seeker from understanding the higher truth. Through the Varnashrama system, we understand that by the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, that relationship can be realized in a Krishna conscious way. Through the Grihastha ashram, the Brahmacharya ashram, the Grihastha ashram, the Vanaprastha ashram, and the Sannyas ashram, there is a safe system that can be followed in order to overcome the sexual desire and the inclination of lust, to dovetail it, to connect it to Krishna, and to bring about a change in our human condition. By thus eventually practicing this Varna Ashrama system, we come more and more to devotional service. And devotional service is for us the saving grace of how we can come out of this human conditioning onto the spiritual platform, only by the mercy of the spiritual master. It is only so possible. Likewise, when we come to the ashram, any ashram we come into, we have to have the blessings of the spiritual master. Without the blessings of the spiritual master, we will understand no books are going out, no spiritual progress is made. Without the blessing of the spiritual master, no understanding can develop of the Srimad Bhagavatam. As soon as we try to whimsically, independently study the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is vanquished. Krishna will not make us proceed and successful in that endeavor, studying Srimad Bhagavatam independently. We have to have the injunction and the guidance of the spiritual master to understand the topics of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus, by getting in contact with Srila Prabhupada through the Guru Parampara, we have the blessings to understand the Vaishnava Sampradaya and also the Vaishnava Tattva. And thus, by the Varna Ashrama system, we can understand that we are a conditioned soul. As a conditioned soul, we have to practice sadhana bhakti in an ashram system. And through the ashram system, we can eventually attain to bhakti yoga. And by the process of bhakti yoga, we can come to the supreme abode. We can understand and we can serve Krishna directly by the mercy of the spiritual master. This is called the scientific study of Srimad Bhagavatam, that we understand the Sambandha, we understand who we are. Because without Sambandha Tattva, there will be difficulties, many difficulties in our book distribution. We have to understand that we are Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, that we are an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. Without understanding of Sambandha, of who we are, we will have difficulties. Naham vipro nacha narapatya nayapi vaishyana shudro Aham varanina cha griyapatiya no vanastuyativa. Kintu probya nikila paramananna ponam redapte. Gopi bhartu parakamalayo dasa dasa anudasa. That only through the understanding as given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that we are not Vaishya, that we are not Kshatriya, Shudra, or Brahmana, we are not Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi, we are actually just the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Radha Parisisvara. And by this clear understanding of who we are as a spirit soul, not as a conditioned living being, because we might have so many inventions of ourselves. I am male, I am female, I am this and that, I am this nation, that religion, this tradition. But actually I'm a servant of Shri Radha Parisisvara. This Sambandha Gyan is most important. We have to understand who we are as a living entity, as a jiva soul, as a part and parcel of Krishna. We're eternal part and parcel of Krishna. And by understanding the Sambandha of our relationship with Krishna, we can engage in devotional service, which is the practical approach, which is the practice that we execute in our spiritual lives. It's called Abhideya. And Abhideya means that we have a clear understanding of the path. We need a map, Srimad Bhagavatam. We need a travel guide, Srila Prabhupada. We need a group to travel with. That is the Vaishnava Sangha. On this journey, and it is a long journey, walking alone means that we will have difficulties after some time. Also, Shrayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj, he says that alone, is an African saying, alone you can walk very fast. You can walk very fast alone. But congregationally, you can walk a long way. And we don't want to walk just fast and have a sprint. This is not sprint book distribution. This is marathon. It means that we have to have a proper community in which we act in our role. And according to our role and constitution, we have to fulfill our devotional duty towards Srila Prabhupada and the spiritual master, so that we can walk congregationally in the Sankirtana movement on a long stretch, not a sprint, long stretch. It is said in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Itanya Vidyananam Ichatamakato Vayam Yoginam Nirpaniyanitam Harinama Anukirtana. This Harinama Anukirtana means that we chant Hare Krishna, we distribute the books, and it is the doubtless and the fearless way of success for all living entities, only so if we are following the injunctions of the spiritual master. We can do so many activities in our spiritual life, but only by the mercy of the spiritual master, it is the doubtless and the fearless way of success for all, even for those who think themselves to be realized. Even for the yogis, the jnanis, even for those who think themselves to be advanced on the Atmaram platform, already on that Brahma Bhuta stage. Bhakti Yoga, this Harinam Sankirtan movement is for everyone, for every living being. And thus everybody can join. We read the purport of Prabhupada's Mahamantra. Then Prabhupada says that even a dog can take part in it, even a child, even your grandmother, even your grandfather. Everybody can take part in this Harinam Sankirtan movement. And that is the beauty of it. The beauty of this Harinam Sankirtan movement is that everybody can join, even if they're the most realized personality you ever meet. They will tell you they've been 3 times to Rishikesh, and they have done all the yoga asanas. And even if they tell you they have studied the Quran, the Bible, and the Bhagavad Gita at the same time, upside down, why were they doing Shirshasana headstand? Even if they tell you that they are a mystic yogis from the Himalayas and they have been traveling with their mind of speed to Paris city just to give you a lecture. No, we will tell them that even so it is, you will find pleasure. You will find great bliss and satisfaction in this Krishna consciousness, Harinam Sankirtan movement. And thus we keep ourselves in this position as a sincere servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, practicing the practice of devotional service and eventually attaining to the supreme goal, which is What is the supreme goal of the practice? Prayojana is prema, prema bhakti. Prema bhakti means unconditional, uninterrupted. It means loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by thus following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada and the Vaishnava Acharyas, we can surely attain to that freedom of this conditioning, which is given here in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 9th canto, because logically it's a consecutive study. We go consecutively through the Srimad Bhagavatam, and what is coming next? Why do we have to hear all this? Because the supreme pleasure is just waiting around the corner. It is now for the 9th canto for us to learn detachment from all those difficulties in our temporal affairs, in our relationships with non-devotees, in the relationships with lust, and how to overcome these eventually. Because this is also an explanation of the descendants of Parashuram and eventually of Lord Sri Krishna. So we have to learn detachment from these stories. That is a simple act that we study, and by studying Srimad Bhagavatam, naturally, what's that verse? Nayam, Tripami Swadu Swadu, what's that? Vasudeva Bhagavati,
Bhakti Yoga Prayojana.
Bhakti Yoga Prayojita.
Nashayati Ashurayaradyam Jnanam Chayatahaitukam.
That naturally, by this Bhakti Yoga process, Jnanam and Vairagyam, they come. And then we study nicely. We study Srimad Bhagavatam, we read every day, even when we are down, feeling down in book distribution, we study the Srimad Bhagavatam, and by that, naturally, detachment develops. And a natural attraction for Krishna also arises. So let us take this time, let us take our natural inclination to serve Krishna nicely and the spiritual master to propagate this movement to everyone we meet. This is the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that we should, whoever we meet, we should tell them about Krishna. So let us make an effort at every moment, at every person that we meet, let us say hello and let us say Hare Krishna. Let us say, here's a book for you. Here's a magazine. Here is the holy name. And let us continue that effort. Let us continue that effort not as a sprint, but as a long-term commitment that we make to the Guru Parampara, that we make to Srila Prabhupada. And so that as a congregation in the Harinam Sankirtan movement, that we become free from all the doubts. We become free from all the fear that we might host in our lives. And that we can establish this Harinam Sankirtan, not just in our daily lives, but also in the lives of others. Because this movement is not a temple worship movement. It is not a movement of ashram, or grihastha ashram, or of this ashram or that ashram. It's a preaching movement. And thus we have to continue this movement very nicely. So let us maintain this nice yagya here in Paris. Let us cooperate, because that is the most important principle, that we together, we cooperate. And whoever needs help, always feel free to ask. With that being said, please come forward with your questions, concerns, doubts, fears, with your constructive criticism, with your feedback. Let us churn the nectar together so that we can find a solution for a problem that is maybe relevant here, or also what is relevant to the Sankirtan movement. Hare Krishna, the Vaishnavas.
Hare Krishna.
I have a question.
Yeah, please put the question.
Well, maybe just a question or just something, maybe just to discuss on just a subject.
Yeah.
Like preaching means many things. Means that we want to put people in touch with Krishna and give them the opportunity to give them something that they can how to say one way or other, they have to come to Krishna consciousness.
Hmm.
You know. So, and the essence of it is just to chant Hare Krishna in the association of devotees. So how can we judge? You know, because we can say I'm preaching or we are preaching, but how can we judge the quality of our preaching?
Well, who's there to judge? Yeah, that's a good question. Who's there to judge our process? Of course, we always have to refer to the spiritual master as our guideline of our progress in spiritual life, and that is just natural that we ourselves we are judging ourselves. It means that according to the many amount of books, or according to the hours I've been on the streets, or according to the programs that we had in the day, or according to the conversations that went out turning people into devotees, or if you are a sannyasi, for example, the number of followers or disciples you have, we might be judging ourselves in that regard, saying that I myself am on such and such a level, and I've attained such and such a purity, and with my such and such preaching, I've attained such and such result. That judgment is a bit elusive. It is elusive because the own judge is eventually Krishna. And we can say that, yes, okay, Krishna is sitting in my heart, I can judge for myself because he's speaking somehow or other to me. And it is okay if we have a healthy relationship with Krishna, if we understand that we have been going through the purification process, and that we understand there's a certain process that we can judge by how much have we been purified through our preaching. Preaching is the essence, but what does the essence mean? The essence means that we become more loving and dear to Krishna. But who can judge that? Eventually, it is only the spiritual master, the direct representative of Krishna, and according to the Shastra, you can see in the Shastra, Act of Devotion, or other writings, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, you can see certain criteria, certain characteristics of devotees that are successful preachers, and you can see through these characteristics how a preacher is symptomized, how the symptoms are shown in a preacher. First example is the life of Srila Prabhupada. If we study the life of Srila Prabhupada, if we read the Srila Prabhupada Lalamrita, then by understanding that Prabhupada, he came from his position as a Mahabhagavat, he came down to the Madhyamadikara platform to preach to complete nonsense people, then we understand that it's an upwards process that's uplifting people upwards. It's a downwards process where the preacher, he goes down to help others. He helps them up, so these fallen conditioned souls can be uplifted to a higher standard. And according to our preaching, it will be reflected of how much the people we are preaching to, like let's say Donitai is cultivating a group, like a Bhakti Shastri group, or Vigatashu is cultivating, devotees on the streets, and he's following up on them, or you are cultivating friends or well-wishers in your life, and according to how much they are able to surrender to Krishna, your preaching is also reflected. You will see that, okay, now I met a devotee, or I met a nonsense person in the streets, and I could give him Bhagavad Gita, and now he's a devotee. He's chanting 16 rounds, and he's now fully inclined for devotional service. Then we can say your preaching is fruitful. That your overflow that you have been amassed from your sadhana, that from your sadhana, your overflow, you have been given to others, and it has been also fructifying in others as well. If that isn't the case, then we have to see that how our own devotional life is cemented, or is based. If our devotional life is not 100% based on the verdict of the scriptures, and if we cannot follow even the most simple principles, then we have to seriously interrogate, and we have to seriously question a mentor or a senior Vaishnava. What is the difficulty in our spiritual life? So according to these factors, the 4 regulative principles of how the Shastras define the symptoms of a preacher and how the reflection in real life, how the personalities that you meet in real life, how they are progressing through your preaching and through your relationship that you cultivate with them. These are factors, just a few factors to judge for your own understanding. But the principle, the prime principle is ask the spiritual master. Knock on the door of the spiritual master, and if the spiritual master is not available, go to your next trusted senior Vaishnava and always ask the senior Vaishnavas, because that is the prime principle that we have. Tadvidi pranipatena, we have to ask the senior Vaishnavas and the acharyas that we trust. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Thank you very much. Vigatash, you have anything to add? You'd like something to add?
Now it's all about the time.
Yeah. Time is right. Anything from the ladies' side?
I have a question, but maybe I can ask after.
You can ask it now. Anybody who feels hungry, the class is now officially over. You can take to your breakfast and you can ask your question.
I met someone on the street. They told me that they told me that they have Bhagavad Gita, and I was like, okay, did you started reading? They said not yet, and I was like, when you got the Bhagavad Gita, the person said last year.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'm a bit concerned to give Bhagavad Gita to someone. Like, I'm a little bit judging in this regard, because now I'm thinking that okay, I have to distribute, but I also need to maybe just see that the Bhagavad Gita is not just going and staying. I understand that, okay, maybe it does not matter so much, but then if it's just kept in someone's library, it's in a way it's not respectful to the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from, and it's a fair concern. I think that it's also a concern and a reason why I distribute magazines only, basically. Because then I will see how that person reacts towards that little literature. We call it a gratis or like a free magazine. And if actually there is a connection, if actually there is a taste for that person receiving a magazine, that will be immediately revealed. And immediately also you can see when you give a person a Bhagavad Gita, you can immediately understand that person is ripe to read the Bhagavad Gita, that person is fit for understanding the Bhagavad Gita, and cultivation can happen naturally. Another point is, and that is actually the main point of a preacher, the main point of a preacher is that give Bhagavad Gita to everybody, without any consideration of caste, creed, caste, or interest. Give them to everybody, why not? The fear is, and that is also the point that you might be raising, is that the person might take the Bhagavad Gita on the streets, and you might turn around the corner and you see the Bhagavad Gita laying on the floor, in the bin, in the dust, anywhere. That happens, and that is okay. Krishna is then not mad at you. It is actually that Lord Nityananda is so merciful. Lord Nityananda is so merciful that you have shared this knowledge unconditionally to an unfit recipient. But at the same time, we should make sure that that person is cultivated nicely. That means that it's best to bind them up immediately, to bind them up to Krishna consciousness. And how to do that? You have to give them a good relationship. We can only bind newcomers or people that are receiving books if we give them our friendship, if we give them a good relationship, if we give them a better and higher community, a higher taste, a better philosophy, a better understanding of what is spiritual life and music, kirtan, and so on and so forth. So try to make friends. Try to make friends with the people that you meet on the streets, because these friendships, they are actually the way of cultivating people that might be, unconsiderate or uneligible or even unfit to receive Bhagavad Gita. So generally the principle is we are responsible, 100% responsible. If we give this wonderful weapon of mass enlightenment, if we give this mass enlightenment weapon to anybody, then we are responsible of how this is used, how Srimad Bhagavatam can help a whole society at large, that we all must understand. How it can be misused also, we also have to understand. And thus we have to be very careful. At the same time, we have to judge according to the personal relationship that we have developed with that person on the streets, of how much that person is able to understand, relish, and live the Bhagavad Gita. Give a contact, give your contact always, give your card, the mantra card of the temple, give them always an invitation to come to the temple, give them always prasadam, let them always chant Hare Krishna so that they have a taste of what is Hare Krishna. And best is actually that you on the streets, you give them the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and you let them open the Bhagavad Gita and you teach them how to read the Bhagavad Gita. If you can do that in 5 minutes of time, perfect. If you cannot do it, then pray. Pray to Krishna that he will, at the end of the day, we all have to pray eventually that may this all be forgiven, whatever mistakes we have done. That is our finish of the worship when we do the puja, for example. Then the very last item of the worship is Angahinam Kriyahinam Vidhihinam Trapave Astuta Saramachitam Krishna Krishna Prashadataha. We ask for forgiveness. We ask Krishna personally for forgiveness in all our preaching, for whatever we have done wrong, for all the false items we have offered, for insufficient prayers, for everything that we have maybe done wrong in our worship, and book distribution is worship. Then we have to say, please Krishna, forgive me for whatever I have done wrong, and please nullify all the misgivings, and may it all be again my relationship to you that counts, right? So Krishna accepts that. He accepts your effort, your bhakti, and that is what actually counts. Not how many books you distributed, how many Bhagavad Gitas you gave out, not how many thousands of prasadam plates you distributed, or how many magazines, or how many ladus you gave to the people. It counts how much your bhakti, your relationship with Krishna develops. That's the main point. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Regarding preaching, this is one definition of the preaching. It's actually is the word is called prachaka. Prachaka means that someone is prachaka, very enthusiastic, Srila Prabhupada, to share the message of devotion to the others. So definition is follow further explanation that we are not preaching, we are assisting those who really preaching. So therefore, what we're doing now, we're just arranging the situation that someone can really preach. So that's what it really means. We are assisting Srila Prabhupada, that we are giving association of pure devotees in all these great personalities, which are, and they're what they're doing, everyone is preaching, to someone who is not, who need to be preached.
And that aligns with our Sambandha Gyan, that we are just a servant of the servant of the servant of the Vaishnavas.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you for sharing that comment.
Yeah.
It's a very valuable comment. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Namaste, Saraswati.